Coach. Just now that you've had a couple days with the game and everything, what are your thoughts on last week and what you saw after looking at the tape and everything?
Yeah, it's been a good week or a good start to reflection. You go back, you kind of learn a lot from a loss sometimes, and I think we really did. And what you look at is okay, how do you match up? That's a good team. How are we physically matching up with them? And I thought we matched up physically well. It's a game on offense. If you told me before the game we weren't going to have any sacks and one negative play, I think we'd do all right. And so it's a great stat, but the stats are if you don't take care of the ball and execute the proper way, you don't get away from you. And I think that's kind of been the main thing. I'm excited to see how the bounce back is, the response, and the kids energy has been really good at practice. So I think we're going to be fine. It's just we didn't execute versus a good team, and they took advantage of it. And there's some situations within the game where we can get back in it and change it right before half. We're driving, and it's 14-0, and you got a chance to score there. And if you score, it's a different game. And instead, we kind of stepped on ourselves and had a penalty and derailed, and then it was an interception, and they scored the next play. And so, when you're hoping it's 14-7, it's 21-0. And that's how fragile games can be. And so we're learning a lot from that, and kind of just ready to get back out and play another game, but we've got to earn that win this week, and we're on our way now.
We talked preseason about kind of the spine of the defense. You lost two guys from that spine during that game. First of all, any updates on Carter, Niall, and then when you lose guys like that, how do you want to see the team adjust things?
It's next man up. We always talk about that, and they're not going to break. Niall went out early. Our other starting D tackle went out early. So we lost those two, and then Carter goes down, and that's what recruiting's for. That's what depth is for. And we had guys that stepped in and played well. They're just, you're not always going to be at the same level of Niall and Carter, and so we're expecting those guys back and to play again and help us out. But we're definitely a lot better when they're in there, and they'll take care of their bodies. They'll get themselves right, and we'll be ready to go.
The other obvious question, the quarterbacks. I know what's the plan to play them both, and they both played. What's the plan this week, and what do you see from those guys?
Yeah, I thought it's really both did well. It wasn't that Chris did bad. On Chris, it seemed like every time he had the ball or was in, it was a monsoon. I mean, that was a hard rain. We had a couple drops early that didn't help things out. For him to get in the flow, and when we put Z in and he moved the ball and he hit some throws when we needed to. And in fact, I think both yours came from Z. Yeah. And so it's great to see, number one, you're developing depth, but two, having a couple guys that can play and make plays, helps us. So, we'll continue that model. Both those guys are great players. And we've got a couple great players behind them that, can help us. But we've got to, ultimately, offensively, is just, be efficient and string together drives. And when we get that first down, we start turning into a pretty good play, a chance to, stretch the ball down the field, make some explosives, get our back some touches. So I think both those guys are going to play again. Both of them play again. Both of them I expect to have good games. And again, other than Chris, he got, it was right before half, and it was raining really hard, and one flew out of his hand and went high. The reads are there. It's just a pick. So that's something where I tell our team this all the time, and I've said it to you multiple times. The mistakes are fine. We do not have a fear of failure, just like losing. We're not going to win every game. It's kind of how you bounce back, and then if you're repeating those same mistakes. And that's what I'll be looking for out of Chris, on that. And heck, Z had a couple mistakes too that, we'll look for. But I think if they get those handled, I think we're going pretty good. If they don't, you're going to see playing time go down.
Luke, what's that like for you out there? And you played with quite a few different quarterbacks during your time, but not always with the rotation within games. So what's that like? Kind of a little bit different styles between the two, but it seemed like you had a good connection with both.
Yeah, absolutely. As a receiver, I trust that every one of the quarterbacks are going to be well prepared coming into the game. Obviously, Z might be a little better runner than Chris. Chris might be a better thrower than Z, whatever it is. I still trust that either one of them can make the throw. Either one of them can pick up a first down with their legs when they need to. And it's not just them. It's everywhere from them to Mason, to Hayden, to Kale if he has to ever get thrown in there. we trust that every single one of them are well prepared. I know that all of them will make the plays when we need them to. They'll hit the open guys. Obviously mistakes happen with Chris's interception. Joe Q says it a lot to us in the weight room. A mistake is something that happens once. It's a problem if it is repeated, right? So I have no doubt that it was a one-time thing. It was just a mistake. That's not something that will happen over and over again. So again, it's on coaches to kind of decide what role each of those quarterbacks will play in the next game. But like I said, I have all the trust in the world that whoever it is will come in and make the plays that need to be made.
With the receiving core, a lot of young guys around you this year. Like Coach alluded to, a couple mistakes early with drops. Just what are you telling your guys kind of with those early game jitters, and what was kind of the message as you guys kind of settled in for the rest of the game, and definitely not as many drops after that first drive, that's for sure.
Just keep your head in it. One drop doesn't determine the outcome of the game. We have a lot of guys. I'm the only one in the receiver room that came into Mankato with like real game experience. We had Maddox in there starting. We had Irwin, a transfer, in there starting. It can be easy for guys that don't have as much experience to get down on a missed block or a dropped pass. But just reminding them that there are so many more plays to be made throughout the game. Just kind of keep their confidence up. Remind them that they're going to have more opportunities. That's not the only ball that they're going to get thrown their way. So just keep their confidence up. That's all there really is to it.
Obviously, this weekend you guys are opening MIAA play. What are you telling the team? First game in play.
Yeah, we probably don't get into too much of the in-conference, out-of-conference. This week especially really has been directed at ourselves. And let's be the best version of the Bearcats we can be. And I really think that. I think I've tell them early, it's like, and us as coaches as well, it's like most teams lose games early than win them. And we were an early candidate for that, as far as the way we played. I don't think we necessarily played bad. We just made a few too many mistakes that they capitalized on. And so, going into Washburn, they're a great opponent. They're 1-0. They have a better record than us. But with all due respect, it's not about them. It's about us. I think, if we complement each other on offense, defense, and special teams, I think we're going to be a pretty good unit, and we can get to the fourth quarter and see if we've got a chance to win. If we don't, it's an uphill climb, all year. And so it's just been the bounce back, the rebound, make sure we have the energy, the passion, and come out and go to work. And I think everything will fall into place. So our kids have embraced that, and we're going through the game plans and making sure all the pieces are in as a good a spot as we can be to make it happen. But like Luke said, he's the only one that came back with a catch, I think, this year that started, good or bad. So, when the lights come on, it's a different pressure. Nobody's dropping it on purpose. Nobody's making a mistake, throwing interception, anything. And those don't cost the game. There's a lot of those added up. So it's going to be about us and how we can put together a game plan and ultimately come out and play together as a team.
Going to Washburn, though, they ran for negative 37 yards and still won a football game. So that's something about their passing game. They brought in a grad transfer quarterback, obviously. What have you seen from Washburn? Just kind of your first look at them early this week.
I think they want to be a physical football team. I think they adapted to the game of what Truman did, defensively, and they have a new OC who's a former quarterback there, and they took what they give. They attacked the flats a lot, and what I thought they showed is a lot of patience. They took a lot of short passes and just acclimated them. Went and gave whatever Truman gave them, and ultimately found a way to win the game. So I thought that was a good job by the coaching staff doing that, and now we'll direct it. But make no mistake, they're going to want to, Coach Watkins, he's an old D coordinator, and he understands what it's going to take to win a game, and I don't think that's their plan is to do that every game. And so they'll attack us, and right now, in fact, we gave up over 200 yards rushing. They're going to try and attack that, and our guys understand that, embrace it, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Luke, what's like you said, not as many scheme changes defensively because they promoted their defensive coordinator. So what's going to be the key this week for the offense to come out and put up some points against Washburn?
Make plays when they're there. we're confident going into every single game. We were confident going into the Mankato game. We're just as confident going into this game. There's always going to be schemes and concepts and stuff that coaches draw up to put us in the best possible position to make plays and win the game. You know, it as a skill position on offense, it makes me feel really good when Coach Matt comes into Monday meetings and says, back away from the board because the install you're about to look at is fire. So when you have that many good plays with big play potential being installed on a Monday, when you have the rest of the week to put in even more stuff, it definitely brings up the confidence and definitely the excitement for the game as well as that. So.